Scanning the creek around him, Sen frowned. If I were a big cat, where would I be? Still rushing with adrenaline from his lightning mantis hunt, Sen still needed to capture a primitive creature to evolve with the black crystal. Out of all the beasts that Sen could collect in God's sanctuary, he knew he needed something that wouldn't draw too much attention when he brought it back through camp. It only made sense to return to his old friends, the Coppertooth Panthers. The Coppertooth Panther was found commonly hunting around the steel armor shelter, and could be kept in a cage within his room. It also allowed him to face his old foe that kept him from multiple successful hunts. From Sen's previous hunts, it seemed he only needed to stumble out of the gate and he'd land into the razor-sharp teeth of the panthers. But now he was struggling to find even one. Gritting his teeth, Sen waded through the creek, searching for any sign of the beast. Looking to the banks of the river, Sen looked for paw prints or fur or maybe even a fang. Having been all too familiar with the panthers, Sen knew they wouldn't wander too far from their dens. His eyes lit up as he spotted tracks that followed the creek's edge. They are close. Very close. The Coppertooth Panthers can't be much further now. Far from confident than he was with his first encounter, Sen clutched his alloy dagger as he followed their trail. Compared to his last journey here, Sen effortlessly glided over the mud with his golden armor, hardly sinking into the soft soil underneath. With how easy it was to traverse the landscape, Sen couldn't be more excited to go for a rematch. Just down the stream ahead of him, Sen saw 3 Coppertooth Panthers digging into a fresh fish they pulled from the river. In the middle of the 3, a panther with a large scabbing neck wound tore at the fish as if it was just a game. Tightening his grip around his alloy blade, Sen smiled. That has to be the one I injured last time. It seems that the wound is healing nicely. One of the Coppertooth Panthers pulled away from their fresh kill and turned their attention back toward the water. Its tail flicked in the air as it ready to pounce on another fish, eager to kill again. Clutching his alloy blade, Sen found himself smiling. Aren't they going to be surprised that they're on the other side of the hunt this time? As Sen summoned his golden armor, the golden liquid poured over his skin, covering every inch of him with an impenetrable second skin. Looking over his golden armor, Sen couldn't see a single weakness in its design. The Panthers would be lucky if they could even bruise him at all. Not needing to hide in time, Sen approached the Panthers head-on. As they watched Sen approach, the Panthers got up and licked their lips as they welcomed the intrusion. Breaking into a run, the panther with the mangled neck ran straight for Sen, opening its massive jaw to reveal its razor-sharp teeth. The panther latched onto Sen's shoulder and, clank! Its razor-sharp teeth couldn't even scratch the armor as it tried to gnaw through it. A wicked grin crossed Sen's lips. If the lightning mantids couldn't get through it, there was no way that a Coppertooth Panther could. They're not going to be able to stand a chance against me now. With ease, Sen threw the panther off of him, sending it splashing into the reeds. Watching as the panther retreated to the reeds, Sen couldn't help but smile. Before, Sen might have been the one being chased through the reeds, but now, he was the one forcing his foes to retreat. Unlike last time, it felt like something had opened inside Sen. While he always knew he could take on the panthers, it was far easier than before. With his power, the potential from within Sen had been unlocked, allowing him to gather everything he needed to defeat such a foe finally. The second panther charged at Sen. Clamping its massive canines onto Sen's armor, it dangled as it hung onto Sen's arm. It could do nothing to hurt Sen. Sen grabbed the beast by the neck and pushed it to the ground. With his free hand, he raised his alloy blade above his head before bringing it down and, primitive Coppertooth Panther killed. No beast soul gained. The body of the panther went limp. Enraged by its dead companion, the third panther hissed at Sen. Desperate to get a hold of its prey, it slashed its fierce claws at Sen, trying to grab him, but, just like its teeth, its claws harmlessly bounced off Sen's armor, leaving not even a dent. Not ready to give up, the panther tried to swipe again, but Sen rolled away from its attack. Sliding around the panther, Sen got behind the panther before it could recover. With one swift pull of his blade, Primitive Coppertooth Panther killed. Primitive beast soul of Coppertooth Panther gained. Sen's eyes widened. Even though I killed over 40 lightning mantis, I never got a beast soul. How lucky do I have to be to get a beast soul after only killing 2 Coppertooth Panthers? While everyone aspired to get a beast soul, it was a toss-up if a slayed beast would deliver one. Even the most common beast souls, like from a primitive Coppertooth Panther, were still a rare commodity. For warriors to obtain a beast soul, they had to rely only on pure luck of the draw. Eager to see his new weapon, Sen summoned the primitive Coppertooth beast soul. Stretching out his hand as it suddenly appeared, a bronze shadow emerged into a staff with a crescent spearhead at the tip of it. Like the bronze fangs of the creature, Sen couldn't help but admire his new staff. I couldn't have gotten a better beast soul, Sen thought as he tested the lightness of the spear in his hand. From the reed, Sen could hear a low, deep growl. The first panther was still alive and furious. I can't forget what I came here for, Sen thought as he raised his spear. I have to get a panther to bring back with me to evolve. A blood-chilling roar erupted from the edge of the creek as the panther with the neck wound leapt out of the reeds. Seeking revenge for its fallen pack, the panther leapt for Sen, aiming for his head. Effortlessly, Sen raised his spear to block the attack. Keeping the creature at bay, the panther tried to push against Sen's spear. It snapped and spat at Sen, but remained no closer to his face. With hardly any power, Sen pushed the panther back and hurled it toward a boulder. The panther slammed its head against the rock and went limp. For a moment, Sen wondered if he killed the creature, but seeing the heavy movements of the creature's chest, Sen knew it was just stunned. Wasting no time, Sen hurried to hogtie this creature. As it regained its senses, the panther tried to snap at Sen, but he quickly muzzled its jaws. That's enough now. You're going to come with me. The panther let out a muffled hiss as it angrily glared at Sen. Fully aware that the creature would easily kill him if it got out, Sen made sure to tightly bind the knots around the creature, preventing it from running. With the panther tied up, Sen couldn't be happier. Not only did he defeat his old foe, but Sen now had the creature that would put him one step closer to paying off his debt. If he could evolve the panther into a mutant creature, Sen could easily gain the funds to buy his aunt and uncle's shares of his family home. Eager to return to feed the crystal to the beast, Sen threw the panther over his shoulder and set off for his shelter. As he approached the steel armor shelter, he unsummoned his armor, not wanting anyone to see him wearing it. Knowing that it would only bring him further trouble, Sen wanted to make sure that no one knew the true extent of his power. However, as he approached the steel armor shelter, he was surprised to find it bustling. A gang of about a dozen warriors wandered at the front gate of the shelter, each on top of a beast soul mount. Each of the warriors wore shaggy armor and were equipped with spears and lances, specifically designed to take down a gigantic beast. In the front of the pack was a tower of a man who loomed over a timid hunter who carried bags of dried beast meat. Damn it, Sen thought as he shuffled forward. What is Son of Heaven doing here? If Sarah Arin was the queen of God's sanctuary, Son of Heaven was the king. As a leader of one of the most fearsome gangs in the region, Son of Heaven was one of the strongest in all of God's sanctuary. He also was one of the biggest bullies who pushed and prodded anyone that was weaker than him, twisting them into submission to get just what he wanted. Sitting on top of a mount that looked like a triceratops, Son of Heaven was barking at a timid warrior carrying a pile of cooked animal meat. I don't know about you, but I think that our friend here might have a bit too much meat on his hands. We don't want anyone to get too greedy, do we, men? Behind him, his men chuckled as they pulled the reins of their beasts. Terrified by the brute before him, the man cowered. I'm sorry, Mr. Son of Heaven, but I've been ordered to drop this off at the Bullseye's camp. Beside Son of Heaven, a man on the wildebeest mount snapped his whip at the cowering warrior. Sen recognized the man as Jack Ballard, Son of Heaven's right-hand man. Always eager to do the malicious work of his boss, Jack was just as bloodthirsty, if not more, than Son of Heaven. Most of the time, Sen saw in the steel armor shelter tormenting the newest recruits for Son of Heaven's gang. With a cold smile, Jack let out a snort. Oh, are you hogging all of the meat? It's awfully rude of you, don't you think? The man recoiled from Jack. I'm sorry, sir, but Sarah Arons ordered me to... Do you think we care? Hand it over. With a snarl, Son of Heaven put his hand up. Shut up, Jack. This is for Sarah? Sen almost wanted to laugh. Everyone in the shelter knew that Son of Heaven was madly in love with Sarah Aron. Although Sarah refuted his advancements, Son of Heaven was obsessed with trying to prove himself to her. From what Sen had heard, Son of Heaven had tried almost everything to get her attention, except for outright proposing to her. Knowing that his boss would be weak to Sarah, Jack continued to try and push for the meet. It's not like Sarah's going to notice if one or two of them are missing. Son of Heaven smacked Jack on the back of the head. Use your head, you moron. We're better off having someone like Sarah working with us than against us. Out of all the people to anger at the steel armor shelter, Sarah was one of the last people anyone wanted to upset. Not only did she have plenty of power in the shelter, but she had quite the name for herself outside of the shelter. As a soldier for the Alliance, people knew all about her deeds through the military. And with Son of Heaven's crush on Sarah Aron, Sen knew it was best to be far out of his wrath. Taking their argument as his chance to slip forward, Sen tried to push past Son of Heaven and his crew. But as he slipped past, Sen felt the sting of Jack's steel whip as it stung his skin. Dropping the panther, Sen touched his broken skin as he turned to face Jack, Son of Heaven, and his entire gang all glaring at him. With a cruel smile on his face, Jack chuckled. It seems someone didn't want to stop and say hello. Son of Heaven let out a snarl as he looked at the panther on Sen's shoulders. Who sold you that beast? Asked for